That's good. You might be able to hear behind you that my heater's on and running, because it's definitely getting that time of year where you gotta start thinking about how you're going to heat your boat. And what heater might be best for your boat has a lot to do with what kind of boat you have, what kind of space, what you're comfortable with. So we're gonna take a look at a couple of different heaters that me and my friends here at the club have on our boats. I have a Planar, two of them have Dickinsons, so we're gonna go take a look at them and see what everybody thinks. I'm gonna finish this first though. So I have the Planar 2D diesel heater. I like to keep my boat around 15 degrees, which the Planar is really able to do. Has no problem doing that, has plenty of heat to spare as well. It can definitely be a little noisy at first and something that you need to get used to, but after a while it just turns into white noise. I went with this heater in particular because I used to have a Chinese diesel heater, but it didn't have any of the safety features and I wasn't comfortable leaving it running all the time. I was always shutting it off because it didn't have any safety cutouts, and the Planar did. So I went with that. I went with the Chinese diesel heater in the first place though because I don't really have the wall space to mount like a Dickinson or a Reflex, so that kind of took those right out of the running for me, unfortunately. But it turned out to be a good thing. There were some other costs that are associated with the heaters, and most heaters do have that. For me, it was the exhaust wrap, exhaust cement, a mounting bracket, a through hull for the heater, and I also went with some optional insulation around my ducting so that it would hold the heat better to get it to where I wanted it to go. If I were to have to do all of this all over again, I would definitely buy this heater again. It has turned out awesome and I haven't had a problem with that at all. We've had a few days now of -8 degrees and it still runs great and doesn't have a problem keeping up with my heating needs. So yeah, we'll take a look at a few of where I have the outlets at, because I have two closable outlets, so we'll take a look at that. So this is where I have one of them. As you can see, it opens and closes. This is for the main salon, and then I have this one here, which is for my galley. Now I went with the two ports so that I could kind of customize how I'm heating the boat. So the one in the salon is for that if it can't keep up with the whole heating load of the entire boat, say we have a really cold snap and it just needs to heat just where I need it to stay hot at, I can put up a curtain in my salon, close off my head, put all the heat right into the salon and keep it nice and toasty. I haven't had it have to do this, but it was in the planning when I put the system in. It meets all my needs. Never had any problems with it so far. I would recommend it. We are going to go take a look at Dickinson Newport, friends of mine have, and yeah, we're going to go take a look at their heater.
Hi, I'm Jordan. This is Seth.
Hello.
We have a YouTube channel called The Nautical Neighbors. We're here
Neighbors
today.
with the U.
We're here today to talk to you about our heater we have on board, our Aloha 32 sailboat, which is the Dickinson Newport heater. Seth, take it away. Tell them about the heater.
Like, in the beginning when you light it, you kind of have to huddle close to feel the heat, but after about 2 or 3 hours, it really warms up the space to a comfortable level. So we try to keep it at a comfortable room temperature. I'd say at anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees, depending on the weather.
So yes, it keeps the boat warm in the salon, but yeah, in the V-berth it stays cold, and it doesn't make any noise at all. So we go to bed. Seth likes that. The only noise it makes is if it's too windy outside. Sometimes you can hear the flame bouncing around. And when we heat it up in the middle, it's expanding. So the Dickinson, the reason we got this heater was because we had a couple neighbors our first year on board, and they suggested it to us because they have one themselves. So we didn't even know the other options really before buying it, because we're like, sure, you guys have one, that works. It's always on the same setting, because if you go higher or lower on the dial, it'll mess up the flame. It'll be either too rich or not. You won't get enough fuel. So it's always consistently on setting around like between 2 and 3, which keeps the boat a comfortable temperature. That's the word. keeps the comfortable temperature. So depending on how cold it is outside, last year we had a few days in the negative 18, I think is the lowest it got. And I don't know, the boat temperature might have been like 10 degrees, but today it was +2 outside, and I was seriously sweating in here. So
is there anything that you would have liked to know before you bought the heater?
I would have liked to have just like a detailed list of like all the fittings and stuff that we needed. Like especially for the hoses that come together. That was a nightmare.
You need the chimney cap, the fuel filter, the heater itself, the heat shields, the elbows, the copper line. Down on copper line. That's a song. The fuel tank. Just know you're gonna be spending probably like $1,500 or even more by the end of it. It's like generally pretty safe. It's all this is our second winter with it, so last winter I was just scared because there's a flame, and the very first time Seth and I ever lit it, we didn't do it properly, and we flooded the chamber or whatever it is.
The chamber, I guess, yeah.
We flooded it, and then when it finally lit, the preheating part, when it, everything was at the right temperature to burn efficiently, it just burnt all the diesel in there at once, and so it went insane. And black smoke came out of the chimney, and the heater was shaking, and it sounded like fire was shooting out the bottom. Honestly, it was so scary. So for the rest of the winter, I was paranoid about the heater on while we're sleeping. But you know what? Even like it burned the fuel the first time, and it handled it. Even though it was scary, it still handled it. So I think it's just a pretty safe thing, even if it's burning too rich. And I don't know, it just takes some getting used to, but I don't think it's probably as easy as those forced air heaters that you just turn on, turn off, but this doesn't use any power, and you get to look at a pretty flame, so those are the pretty big benefits. I think you can also sail with it on, like 30-degree keel.
If you do flood the heater, a lot of smoke will come out because it's too rich, and that can get on your ceiling sometimes. So you may have to...
Or when the wind just blows it out. Sometimes the wind will hit it funny, and it'll just... bunch of smoke come up here. Our ceiling is dirty. We need to clean it.
I'd buy it again.
That was Seth and Jordan's Dickinson Newport. For them, it works great, and as they get used to it, it starts working better and better for them. Now we're gonna go take a look at Tom's Antarctic. It's also a Dickinson, but it's the bigger version of it. They have the same BTU output. It's just they got a little bit different setup going on in them. So yeah, he's also going to show us how to light it and clean it. So we're gonna go take a look at that now.
Okay, so I'm cleaning this at the moment, right? So basically, these fires are great. The one of the downsides is they do get a little bit dirty. This here, it all coats up like that. I don't know if you can see that. But what I'm going to do, I just pick it off. And now, honestly, I do it in the sink. But I literally am just picking this stuff off with a screwdriver. It just kind of comes off. It's kind of weirdly satisfying, but also very dirty. So I just try to get as much of it off as I can.
So how often do you have to clean it out?
Well, I'll give it like a once over. Just like that would have been it. About maybe, depends how often I'm using it. But like potentially like once a week. Optimum temperature versus humidity for me is about like 22, 23, and 50% humidity is like optimum. Does it provide enough heat by itself? That absolutely 100% depends on the temperature outside. I always have this heat. I always have an oil-filled heater going because I'm not always at the boat. So nothing's going to freeze, right? And then when I get home, what I'll do typically is I'll chuck that little heater on, like this. If just the heater's going.
Yeah, just the heaters go.
If just the heater's going, I mean, if just the heater's going, it's silent. Except for... which is the fire.
Yeah.
Which is great. This is the dirtiest, worst part of having one of these heaters is doing this, quite frankly. So then I put that on. Now what I do is I leave that for like 2 minutes so that can fill up. That's what the instructions say. I do everything by instructions because I'm like that. So I leave it for 2 minutes, and while I'm leaving it for 2 minutes, I take a square of toilet paper. Just one square, that's all I use. Now I used to use paper towel from the kitchen, but I read that you shouldn't use that because of the fibres or something in there, so I just use this. I fold it up into a nice little square, and then I can use that to clean the screen. Comes off really nicely, like that. Then I can use it as a wick. Basically I open it up and fold it in, I roll it so it's into like a wick shape, like so. And what I'll do in a minute, once we get a bit more fuel in there, I will light it and put it in, and then diesel's absorbed into this wick, and then it'll keep it burning. I was actually really lucky. The boat that I bought, Manana, WestSail 32, is this was in the cupboard.
It's
Right.
just sitting.
Just sitting in this cupboard over here, yeah. So it was literally in there. There was a box of stuff when the guy obviously bought it second hand and planned on installing it but didn't. And he had loads of stuff with it. Like it had, I don't think it had any of the chimney. It had this section of the chimney. This, I think this was here as well. Which is this will, when the fire's going, this will push the heat out, which is really important. The shut off was also there. The fire itself. I think that was it, actually. Now, would I buy this fire again, even though I didn't buy it the first time? Yes, I would, quite frankly, because what sets this apart, okay, firstly, the way it burns. Yeah, this is a pot heater, so it means it has a pot in it, fuel comes up inside, and then it burns, sucks air from the surrounding space, the boat, and it sucks it in and fires it out the chimney, dispersing the heat, which essentially dries my boat out, right? So I didn't know how long it takes to dry the whole boat out. It's like, I want to say 12 hours, I think it is. It'll like replace all the air 7 times, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right, in the boat. So that, I think it's 12 hours. Anyway. So that's what I really like that about this. The other thing is, it's actually for like a 40+ foot boat, right? Like it's oversized for this boat, which has upsides, pros and cons to that, right? The pro is, it's toasty, man. Like super toasty. That's definitely a pro. The con is I can't really like this if it's in double digits. If it's 11 or 12 degrees Celsius, I probably won't like this fire because it's too hot.
Yeah.
So you said, will it heat the boat by itself?
Yeah.
Yes, it will heat the boat by itself. I can crank it right up and it will heat the boat by itself. Now, it's not fast heat, so you don't turn it on and you get instant heat and gratification from it. It takes, to really get this, to get the boat properly warm, it has to be burning for, like, it will be warm up to temperature in like an hour or so. But then for everything to actually accumulate the temperature, because it's not just the air in here that's keeping the boat warm, it's everything that's in it. So all my cushions, all my wood, anything that I have in here, once that stuff gets warm, if I light it when I come home from work, the next morning when I wake up, the boat's great. The boat's fine to wake up in, and like, I'm not cold or anything, right? Which is brilliant. So now all I do is I take this, I light this little wick. What I do is I put this right in there. Now what you'll see is every single time it falls just on the edge, so it doesn't quite get in there. See that? So what I have to do, I take this and I push this in the rest of the way. You can see it? Yeah. See that? Do you see how that kind of popped? Now that's sucking up the diesel. Now obviously we've got fumes coming in the boat. So I close my nice new clean screen and I pass you back to... So now I know I've saturated the bottom of the pot. I turn this off, so now there's no diesel going in. Now I let it build up, right? And then it will come up and you'll see at the moment, you'll see at the moment, it's all burning down, and that ring that you can see just there around the outside, that ring, it wants to be burning above there ultimately, but when it first starts, obviously it can't. It has to get up to temperature. So the other thing about this is it has a water jacket in. So basically, if you can see this here, those are two pipes that are now plumbed in, but all it is it comes into the actual heater, it goes round, and then mine goes round twice and then back out, right? So all that means is the heat in there, which is going up the chimney, is also being captured by that water jacket. Now, that water jacket can be used for two things. You can either use it to heat a space, like you would like in a house where you have a furnace. This would be the furnace. That water's pumped around the house and goes to heaters. That is exactly what it is, but on a smaller scale. Or you can have it so it heats water, and the water is then, you can use it as hot water, and that you can do that through convection. So you just have to make sure you have it up higher, goes into there, and then it feeds back through, goes through the system, comes up, and then goes back in, and so on and so forth. I use it for actually heating my space. So what I've got is just here, I've got, that's a reservoir for it. That's my fuel tank for this heater, just here. This is a reservoir. It comes to this here, right? Now, this will fire the heat back into this space, into my V-berth, so it also keeps my V-berth kind of warm. I can regulate the flow by doing that, like that, and obviously I've got my temperature sensor there, so that I know what kind of temperature.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, because something that we actually deeply contest here on the docks is what heating's the best, or how to make those decisions, because you know, you never know until you jump into anything how it's going to work out. So it's all theoretical until you actually get down to using it. But I hope this is able to help you make some decisions and find something that could be right for your boat.